Hey guys, I'm going to try to keep this video short, um, but basically what I'm going to do is um, show you what I'm thinking here, and what a lot of sound engineers and producers are thinking when they're mixing and mastering a track. So what I'm going to do is drop in a track here on this first audio track, and I picked Skrillex and Diplo "Where Are You Now" featuring Justin Bieber because I think Skrillex especially has fantastic sound design, and I'm going to try to visually show you how he does that. Um, so the first thing I notice when I'm looking at this is that it almost looks smushed up against the top and the bottom here. So you'll notice that there's two. This is the left and this is the right, but it looks very smushed. And what that is a compression on the master channel when they're mixing their track. And what a compressor does is that you set a threshold, and anything that is in terms of decibels above the threshold that you set, it will bring it down by the ratio that you set. So for example, you set your ratio at 0. Anything that is 1 decibel over 0, if the ratio is 1 to 2, will be brought down by half a dB. See what I'm saying? So what's happening here is that they're trying to fit everything basically into the ceiling. The way I like to look at it is that exactly like this, there's a top and a bottom, and you're trying to mash in as much as you can in between the ceiling and the floor without sounding muddy. And that's something that Skrillex is phenomenal at. So I'm going to try to give you a visual representation here of how that is possible. I'm going to drop in. First, I want to make sure. Alright, I'm going to drop in iZotope Ozone 6, which is a parametric EQ made by iZotope. They're out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and this is one of my favorite parametric EQs just because of how visual it is and how easy the user interface is to use. So what this is showing you is decibels, volume in terms of decibels here on the left, and frequency in terms of hertz on the x-axis here. So I'm going to play the track and you'll figure out exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so right before the sub-frequencies come in right there, you'll notice that it's kind of representing the flat curve that we talked about. But once the sub comes in, you'll notice the Fletcher-Munson type curve to try to give the appearance of a louder volume. And so you'll see down here the subs are hitting at around 44 hertz, which is like an F1 note, and 54 hertz, which is like a G1 note. But you'll also notice that up here around the 15K range, it's actually cut off, and you can visually see that right around here. And the reason for that is just because humans, I guess, technically can hear up until 20K hertz, but realistically, anything that's over like 17.5 is just adding really high-pitched high-pitched buzzing noise that is just really unpleasant. So the way that is achieved is, you see, I can go into each one of these band EQs here and change the parameters around, so you'll see that I'm just allowing all these sub-frequencies to get through, and anything that's higher than what I set, so say 17K, is being lowered in terms of decibels. And same thing over here with a high pass. Is just allowing everything that's higher than, say, alright, 44 hertz at an F1 note to be reduced in volume here on the left and remain untouched on the right. Another thing that I wanted to show you guys was you'll notice I can drop in all these types of modules. Imager module is really interesting because it can band your lows, your mid lows, mids, mid highs, and highs in these bands, and then you can solo each one of these bands to listen to see what is actually going on more. So I'll show you guys this for a second. And you notice that the sub frequencies, anything below around 200 is going to be completely in mono. And what mono is that the left and right speakers are playing exactly the same thing. And I'll show you here. And once it starts getting up around here, around 2K, a lot of sound engineers like to use dimension expanders or imagers like this in order to give almost a wider effect, which in turn makes it appear louder in terms of decibels, but it's actually not. It's just it's almost a volume illusion. And now you might not be able to hear it on the speakers here in the classroom, but if you listen on high quality speakers or if you listen on headphones, you'll definitely hear the difference if you're switching your tracks from mono to stereo. And a lot of sound systems today, if you're going to big clubs or even the radio, say the radio's in mono. So if your tracks aren't sounding good in mono, you might be in trouble there. Another way, 1 second, I just wanted to keep showing you guys for 1 second how these bands work. So if you drag these bands down, it's decreasing the width, and if you drag them up, it's increasing the width, and that's in terms of panning left and right. So you'll notice that I want my subs, anything really below 200 hertz, to be in stereo, just because you don't want your big rumbling subs to be on the left and right and bouncing around. It just doesn't make sense. You want everyone to be hearing the same sub and feeling really the sub frequencies the same everywhere that they're standing. But these higher frequencies up here, like I said, give the illusion of a higher decibel volume. So we can kind of spread those out and make it seem like they're almost surrounding you, especially if you listen on headphones. And you'll notice that the more I'm increasing these widths, the more the track is becoming out of phase, which is not good, because once it gets turned to stereo for many different reasons, it's not going to sound good. And then the last thing I'll show you is this compressor. And basically this is just a visual representation of how the track is being pulled down, pulled that back down to the threshold in terms of the ratio that you're setting. So you'll see that a lot of engineers are going to mix anywhere between -12 and -6 dBs their first mix down. So I'll set this to a -6, and the ratio over here, this is really just a ratio bar, and so depending on how loud you're trying to make your track, which is over here, you'll notice that this track is already mixed and mastered professionally. So the compression, as you can see, is really up here, just smushing the track, and it's just going to sound really bad. Back to how here you can see how really nice and thick the sound form is. So yeah, if you're crunching your tracks too much, a lot of producers and engineers are gonna crush this down to just make it sound louder. But at the same time, the more you're crunching it, the more it's distorting the sound, and it's gonna sound bad, and it can actually hurt people's ears. A lot of tracks won't be played out, or even on the radio for that matter, just because because they're not loud enough, and that's why everyone tends to crunch their tracks down in terms of compression. But also, if it's not mastered correctly or professionally, it's going to have spikes here in the waveform, and you'll notice that there's really no spikes. It's really smooth. It looks almost like right angles, but it's still not really smushed. So I could talk about this for hours, but I'm going to let you guys go, and this is going to be the end of my presentation, so thank you.